Welcome to Tying Michigan's Best Trout Flies. Today we're going to be doing a brown drake para-emerger. Let's get started on that. So to tie our brown drake para-emerger, I'm using a size 12 3X long hook. That gives us the length of this fly. And I'm going to use brown thread. We're going to post it, so let's take our thread about halfway down the shank. And then we'll come back to the post position. And as I always do, I'm going to use some white deer hair for the post. And I select deer hair that doesn't have to be stacked. Maybe you may have a fiber that's too long here and there. You can just pull those out. But I just lay that on the top of the shank like that. And we'll wrap it a couple of times, a couple more times, nice and firm. And then we'll lift that up, slide our scissors in, trim that on an angle. When we trim that on an angle, it gives us a whole lot less to bind down when we're ready to do that. Take the thread in front, and a few wraps will lift our post straight up. One of the advantages of using deer hair, it maneuvers a lot more readily than calf body hair. Now to post it, I'm going to put this into my left hand and wrap and hold this post with my right hand and wrap with my left, and capture the thread with the middle finger on my right hand, coming around 6 or 8 times to post this. And you'll get to do this quite rapidly once you practice a little bit. And then our post is secure. We can wrap down anything that's errant, anything that needs to be bound down. And now we're ready to put on the tail. The tail is actually going to make half of our trailing shuck. In order to do that, I'm going to use a section of pheasant, just a section of pheasant like this. You can use whatever you want for this, but of course I prefer pheasant tail. A section like that. And then we want this section of pheasant to be at least the length of the entire hook, not just the shank, but the entire hook. So we can measure it like that and hold it in place. Now we want it to come about right there, so we can trim it right behind the post, to attach it with a couple of firm wraps there, take it all the way to the bend, and now the first half of our trailing shuck, or also known as the tail, is in place. I'm going to take our thread back up behind the post. Now we're going to put the dubbing on, and I make my own dubbing mixture for this with yellow fur mixed with some squirrel tail, some fox squirrel, about 75% yellow and 25% fox squirrel. So we'll just take enough dubbing to dub this size 12 3X long hook. Don't be afraid to try to apply this all at once. You can do it when you practice a little bit. And we'll just spread it down our thread like that, and then put a little pressure on and put it in place just like that. And now we're going to dub this entire fly all at once, starting at the back, of course. Come forward, and we're going to carry this all the way up into the front, and we have plenty of dubbing. So we'll take off our excess, and we want to take our thread back behind the post. Here we're going to add the other part of our trailing shuck, and I make that out of a piece of deer hair like that. We'll just cut off a little section of that, about like that, and we'll attach it behind the post, but we want to make sure that the tips of this extend at least halfway down the pheasant. And then we can switch hands and trim that right there. Go back and attach that right behind the post with a couple of firm wraps, and then back toward the bend. And when we get to the bend, just pull down a little bit so that flare, you see that deer hair flare out, we want that to flare out. And we're going to bring it back to in front of the post where we're going to attach our hackle. The hackle I use for this fly is barred ginger. So I've selected 2, and we're just going to prepare those to tie in. We'll tie those in right behind the post with a couple of good firm wraps there. If you have any errant fibers, now's the time to get rid of them. And we wrap, of course, the hackle from the top of the pathway we made here on our post. We start there and we wrap down, with each wrap going beneath the one that came before, just like this. You can hold the post, wrap, switch hands like this, and make sure you firm this up as you go. Firm that up as you go. How much ever hackle you want on there. I like to put maybe 5 or 6 wraps on there. This is a big fly. You want to be able to float it, and that should do it. And pull it tight, hold the hackle back out of the way, tie it down, and then trim the excess feather. And we're going to go back now and whip finish it the same way. We'll just hold the hackle out of the way and take a few wraps with our whip finisher to complete the head. Tighten it down a little bit. We'll just groom the thorax a bit here and see if we have any errant fibers that need to be trimmed off. Looks like we're good to go there. And so now, as this fly is completed, you can see I'm going to just hold this, put this up a little bit in the vise. You see back here, this pheasant gives us the entire length of the trailing shuck, and this deer hair that's flared out, it gives a good imitation of the abdomen and the little legs that were left off of the trailing shuck as well, making this a very effective emerger for the brown drake hatch. So there you have a brown drake parachute emerger, and we hope to see you the next time.